This is the real me. This all I got. This all I got. I can't go back, no. I can't hold back. This is the real me. This all I got. This all I got. I can't go back, no.
Welcome to the Good Vibes Only podcast with the great vibes on anywhere. So sit back and wind up, take your mind for a little bit of time and enjoy. Today's episode is about good creation, all right? And what that really means whenever you're going through that process, what good can come out of it, what good creation does for other people. And on today's episode, since we talk about creation, who better than one of the best creatives that I know? One of the best creators that I know, right? Right? The man, the myth himself, the mastermind behind Stream Slam and Love on Live It. You had to be there to see it. Mr. Dylan Gray. So
What's going on, bro? How you doing? Thank you. That's a big one there.
So with everybody, I always like to say, look, if we this is a safe space. I want y'all to this is a safe space for everyone watching. This is a safe space for the actual guests that I have with me. So with that being said, I'm gonna shut my mouth. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. Well, my name, as he said, is Mr. Dylan Gray, and I'm a content creator. I'm a writer, producer. Zavon is best known for our work on Stream Slam, which was a wrestling show that we created, and a dating show called Love on Live It, where we had 4 seasons, and it was a 100% live reality show with people from around the world. It was a really awesome experience, and that being said, thank you for having me, Zavon.
So my thought process when it comes to like creating or things or stuff like that, you have to have some type of thing that goes into it, some type of inspiration that you cut from, that you go to, that you do things. For me, as a person who has done work with you, your inspiration most of the time usually be like a random word that somebody might say to me, and then there's this face that he does. Hopefully he does it here, but there's this face that he does that it's like, oh shit, what did you just make up? And it's the craziest face.
It's like it's shocked by I get shocked by my own genius, Savon, is what. That's what that face is, okay? My brain works a mile a minute, and like he says, inspiration comes in all different kinds, ways, and forms. And you never know when it's going to hit you, and it's really important to run with it. I remember one time I was writing a script. I was in the process of developing a comic book. It was one of the first scripts I wrote, so I really was taking my time on it. And I was washing the dishes, and I was holding the knife, right? I was cleaning the knife, and the way I held it just triggered like an idea, and I just ran with it in my head, and I ended up finishing the dishes and like staying up to like 2-3 in the morning writing the script. I was just in the zone. I hit it and ran. And when that creation hits, when that inspiration hits, you gotta hit it. You gotta run with it, because a lot of times it's not around. So you want to get as much work done when you got that spark, when you got that inspiration, like we're saying, because it's almost like energy when you get that. Yes. You know what I mean? When the ideas are flowing, like just keep it flowing. That means you've unlocked something in your brain, and like the dam is open, and just go with it. Get some shit out of there, But there's no right way to go about your process either, I think like Hemingway once said, there's no rule to how to write. Sometimes it comes easy and perfectly. Sometimes it's like drilling rock and then blasting it out with charges. So like either you're working hard or you're hardly working. Either way, like you just think of different ways to get yourself going. I find music being a very big muse for me. How about you?
So for me, a very good muse like intellectual conversations or movies. Let me explain. It is specific movies. And when I say specific movies, I mean like action movies. Movies that like I'll watch something and tell me if I may be the only one, but I'll watch something and if they cut off the series right there, or if they cut off the movie, and I feel like that they're never gonna go anywhere else with this, or something like, or if I don't like the second version installment or whatever they did, I will write something based off of that and my idea of what I would do in that situation, and then based off of that, I will go off into another thing that's completely different based off of what I would do after the thing that I just created. So, so it just kind of goes into like it's kind of like a ripple effect. It's so weird. Like I think from my mind, it's like it's like a weird because I'll create an entire universe based off of just one character. Like Optimus
Yeah.
Prime. When I watched the second one, Into the Fallen, the Transformers Into the Fallen, when I watched that, I wasn't satisfied with how it ended. I wasn't satisfied with the fight between Optimus Prime and the Fallen because I feel like that should have been a harder fight to me. Uh, and so I created this whole entire world based off of just that. And just like where neither part ever wins, neither part ever stops. It just keeps going, it keeps going and going and going. Because if you look at it, like you have Megatron that has been fighting him for years, and he
Right.
ain't dead yet. But the Fallen's supposed to be more powerful than Megatron, and he just died on the spot. So I was like, bruh, I was like, am I the only one who realized that? Am I the only one who realized that?
Bro, that's how I feel about Dragon Ball Z. Like I love that. I'm currently watching Dragon Ball Super right now, and they have done such an amazing job at making these characters that I really care about, and I really want to see where it comes out. But God, their storytelling just sucks so badly. Like even now, they're spending whole episodes charging. Like say what you want about Dragon Ball GT, but like Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Z, they really just stretch out a storyline longer than it needs to be. Like it's so freaking ridiculous, and there's always another level, and it's a mess. But anyways, I digress. We were complaining about that in the Fallen, and yeah, and then you turn that into your own thing, is what you're saying, right?
Yes, basically.
Yeah,
So
I've done that before too. Me and my homeboy Jr. Luan, actually. I call him JR because I knew his dad. But anyways, we started writing this thing because we wanted to just kind of like a fun thing without a pitch, but we were kind of like, hey, we were basing it off of Soul Calibur.
oh
Because we're like, oh, we could get a pitch for like, let's try to do a pitch. Like one day I was just like super inspired, and I was like, hey, let's just sit down. We're not working, and we sat down at Starbucks, and we sat there for like 2 hours writing, and we came up with a whole storyline and everything, just like an outline, not super hardcore, but like an outline. And we ended up figuring it out that like instead of basing it on those actual characters, we changed them into our own ones. Like,
yes.
why not? Like that was just like the baseline, and that can also help with like trying to get that inspiration, trying to get that work done, because you just kind of started as one thing and turn it into your own thing. And that's that's a good way to kind of do it, especially people that are trying to, like, for instance, I tell comic book writers all the time, like, do some stuff that isn't exactly like, you want to write X-Men, okay, do something that's kind of like X-Men but not really X-Men,
exactly.
just to show that you got the chops to do a story like X-Men. You want to write a Superman story, you got to do something like that. And that can really help too, with like just all that kinds of stuff. There's actually these guys that wanted to do a Star Wars story, and they pitched it, but then they couldn't get it done. So they did their own thing, which was basically their own version of Star Wars, but like different. And then they like ended up getting a job writing for Star Wars for years. Like,
So I think for me, I think a good creative like notion for me is that, all right, so this is a weird process, but I've found out that it works and it resonates with people very well. So when I write, right, when I go by a story or something like that. Say I'm about to write like something like Transformers, right? Or I say I want to write something that has to do with aliens or outer space. So I make up like what am I basing this off? Is it the aliens? Is it based off a human with aliens? What am I doing? So if it's based off of aliens, right? I'll find a movie. I'll find a movie that I really like or whatever that comes to my mind, and I'll figure out, hey, what made this movie pop? What made this movie pop? And I'll go from that. All right, cool. Let's add this aspect in there, and then I'll go from, all right, cool. Let's find some other things about aliens in other categories and what made those pops in those biggest foremost categories, and then I'll add that aspect also in that same thing. So in that aspect, it kind of, to me, it kind of keeps you going on because it's not just for one audience. It's like, oh snap, I love this aspect. I love this aspect, and it also introduces audiences to maybe different methods than they do right now. It's like, for example, right now I'm doing a show about an immortal man. And then like he's going through life trying to figure out what he's doing, what he's doing. But the thing is, he's not a superhero. He's not at
Right.
all. He's just trying
He's
to
just
figure out
immortal.
life. Yeah, he's just trying to figure out life. Everyone wants him to be, but he doesn't want to be. He's just trying to figure out life and why he's chosen to be immortal, even though he's suicidal. So that's the aspect of like, all right, cool. Everyone home, we're gonna go. Can he just go ahead and do it? Can he just go ahead and start saving people? And he's gonna be forced to do it, but at the same time, it's like, all right, I don't want to do this or something like that. So it's like that aspect having having that of having that different aspects and not just giving you the normal thing. I feel like that's a good part of creativity. What do you what do
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. No, it's funny because I always believe to just keep the gears working. The create once you are in a spot where you're able to create a lot of ideas, like it's hard to turn that off. As you've seen with me, because how many conversations do we have where we just come up with good ideas? You know what I mean? Like
everyone
it just happens.
every last
And
one?
that's because my gears are always turning. So like even when people are like making fun of me for doing like dumb puns off the top of my head, but it's important. It's important because I like to keep those juices flowing. You got to. I think it's important, and there's lots of different ways to do that too. It doesn't like mean you have to sit down in front of with a pen and paper writing or drawing all day long. Like even just little things like sometimes it's funny when I was younger. I remember doing this a lot. I don't really do it at all anymore. But like, well, I'll see something on TV and I'm like a certain situation happens, and I try to figure out how the writer like came up with that. Like, what
Yes,
what was his
yes,
thought process in trying to figure out
yes.
how to do that. It's something I used to do when I was in high school. I remember specifically doing it for so long, and that was a really interesting like kind of I don't know why I did that or how I got started, but it was something I did for a while, and it's just different things like that, trying to dissect certain things and figure things out. It's keep the
Peacefully.
brain moving. The more you use it, the better it's going to be. You know.
So, so I want to speak on a subject, right? Because you said that you used to make puns, and I cannot, I will not go this entire podcast without the audience hearing some good Dylan jokes and puns. Do you have any for us? Because I know you have some good ones. I know you have some good ones. Do you have any good jokes and puns for us?
You want me to? I mean, I can't just. I'm not. I know I'm pretty funny and I exude it. I mean, you could say that my aroma is pretty pungent.
All right.
There.
He threw that one in. He threw that one in. I thought he was like, oh, I don't have any. I don't know. And then he just threw that. All right, all right, all right, all right.
Don't.
He got.
I'm here. I'm on my toes here. All right. I've been up and at 'em. I've been working all day. I'm ready to go. Come at
I
me.
bad. So the best thing to me, right? Whenever you have this good creative mind and whatever you're doing this good creative thing, you're like going and you're trying to like work towards like this idea or this idea. I feel like as creatives, me and you are both creatives, right? With me and you, I feel like a good creatives. For me, I know for a fact that my mind goes like 18 different ideas at one time, and I sometimes struggle with which ideas in my head that I need to just jot down. I just end up jotting them all down, and I want to know. For I know you have a lot of ideas that go through your head as well. So I want to know what are some of the good exercises that you practice to at least alleviate that? Because I just write it down. I just write everything
Yeah.
down. When I don't like, I
No,
erase.
writing down, recording, these are all really important ones that I'm not as good with as I should be. But there's always I think the most important I think really the most important thing besides writing everything down is trying to keep your thoughts a little more organized, like if you need to focus on developing a certain thing, you should focus on that. Like you can have the other ideas that come up, just jot them down and then save them for later. There's things that have popped up that I don't even know what they are. I had a whole list of things that I found one day on my hard drive that made no sense. I was just like, what is all this stuff?
Yo, I did the same exact thing. So I write scripts on Celtics, right? So for everyone who doesn't know what Celtics is a screenplay writing app that organizes it for you. All you have to do is write. That's all you have to
Right.
do is just write. You don't have to do all this extra stuff. You just have to write, right? So I had like a whole thing. I was on Celtics, and then I got away from Celtics to start writing stuff down because I don't really like typing. I'm not a typing person. I will get disinterested if you ask me to type anything. I'm not a typer. Don't ask me to type shit. So I stopped doing that, and I get on my phone and I do it on my phone, and I get aggravated because I still don't like typing. So I started writing stuff down. Right? I started writing
See, my
stuff.
penmanship's atrocious. I can't. My penmanship is atrocious, bro.
See, we got it backwards on that. I don't like typing stuff, but I love writing it down because then I can type it. Because then I
Oh,
can type it.
I type faster than my brain can think, bro. Like every time. Like I've considered doing one of the tests because I'm that quick. I learned back in the day before y'all had all your Snapchats and everything, we had to talk on AOL Instant Messenger. Okay, we had AIM. All right, and
What?
I couldn't be up all night. I couldn't be up all night on there. So because my mom would be mad. So what I do is I turn off the light. It was just the screen, and then I had to type in the dark. And so that's how I learned where all the keys were at. And now I can type so freaking fast. It's insane.
Yo, he just said, yeah, I'm 25. I remember cassette tapes. I'm like in between. I'm like in between those eras. I'm in
You
between.
remember cassette tapes? Bullshit.
Yeah,
You did
no,
not
no.
ever go to the store and buy a cassette tape.
VCR tapes. I remember VCR tapes. I do. I remember when VCR tapes actually went out.
25. I don't know about
Yeah,
that, bro.
yeah.
That's like
I remember Blockbuster Being closed down.
well,
I remember.
Blockbuster. That's not too crazy. I would be upset if you didn't remember Blockbuster. I
I
just end the podcast right now. I'm out of here.
so guys, so this is the problem that I always have when it comes to people when they talk about like my generation. I'm in the generation where they were transitioning from the last generation to the new generation. I'm that age. I grew up with Fresh Prince, like A Different World, all the other stuff. But I also
Okay.
grew up with Teen Titans Go. I grew up with Ray Simone and the Disney Channel shows. So that's like in between. I grew up with like all that whole transition. So it's kind of weird. Like that's why I think my creative is so great because like that whole transition, like that era to me, I feel like that whole era right there, nothing beats it. To this day, still nothing beats that whole '90s, '80s, '90s to early 2000s era. To me, yet nothing beats it.
That was a solid era for animation. It really, really was. Late 90s, early 2000s, like pre 2006, I'd say, was like the really heavy American animation. But there's some really dope shit that's coming out now, though. you know?
I get it. I get it. I feel like the reason why it's not as good is because you have more access. I do feel like maybe I do feel like because I have seen some old movies that were horrible, and I always try to tell people this: the creativity and the things like that. I don't feel like has ever really changed. I just think we have more access to things that are to the things now. For example, music, right? Everyone was like, "Oh, music's changed and everything, like stuff like that." I'm like, no, I don't really think the quality of music's changed because you still have lyricists. You have more lyricists now than you have before. I think the accessibility of the music has changed because back then labels cared about when they were starting music. They needed good music that could resonate with people. So the best way to do it is get music that has a meaning and everything. But now since you don't really need that connection anymore, you just need a good beat and a good rap and make it accessible to everybody. I think that's the issue. It's just more accessibility and the need. That's it. That's all it is. I think that music and movies are just as good as they've always been. It's just accessibility. It's just that to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's not it's everywhere and it's easy to get a hold of. Yeah. And in that case too, when they say it's not as good as it used to be and everything, well, there's more out there. And if there's more, there's going to be more bad and more good, you know, for that matter, you know?
Exactly.
Um but yeah, well, the whole cinema, the whole all that has changed. Personally, me, if I'm not going to a movie that needs to be seen on a big screen, I'll wait till I watch it at home. There's rarely something like I'm basically going for Marvel and Star Wars movies now, like, and that's just me because if I'm gonna go, I'm more comfortable sitting at my house and watching a movie if it's just like a regular movie, you know. If there's explosions, there's action and or you know some gorgeous scenery or something like that, something that I need to see on a big screen like that, for sure, let's do it. But if not, I'm just gonna go home, and that's on me. That's on me.
That's on me. That's my
You
thing.
know, I
That's
get
my
that,
thing.
but it's also on cinema for being too expensive for not enough good shit. You know, we go to the sticky floor, fucking theaters, and there's punk kids all over the place. They make it not fun. I always said that like what they should be doing is making certain movies that there should be the big screen movie theaters and then small screen movie theaters, and they should have separate ones. You know what I mean? And like bring back the OG kind of film houses where we can
Yes.
go and like, you know what I'm saying, and watch these lower tier movies. Period.
So
I because I think it's also a little bit more fun to watch them on a smaller screen and in an old theater and stuff. But that's just me. That's just me. I don't know.
so
Now
so
I'm just ranting. We're not even talking about creativity anymore. I'm just ranting about the movie industry.
we can move it into it. So with that all being said, so the last thing I want to know, right? So with you being like a person who has this creative mind and this creative thing, right, and everything, I always want to have everybody like whatever they come on my show as a guest. I always want them to leave the people with something, right? I don't want people to leave with nothing less learned. So, with that being said, is there a piece of advice? Is there like something inspirational? Anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Uh, just in general, or do you want it to be about creativity?
Just in general.
Just in general. Okay. Try every food twice because the first time you tried it, it might have just been just a bad batch.
That that's actually a good saying for people. Please look further than what he just said. Look further than food. Do not just think about food.
No, there's some things you don't need to try twice. You know, I feel like if you try butt sex once and don't like it, say move on. You know?
Facts, facts. If you don't like it twice, if you don't like it the second time, don't do it. But try everything. All right.
Not
So,
try it. That's what I'm saying. Like
uh,
this is just specifically food. I want to make this clear. My quote is only about food, y'all. Okay. Anything else is all on him. Okay. That's him taking it that way.
yeah, I'm taking it there. I'm taking it there. All right. Well, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for being here. And with that being said, much love, peace, and soul food, baby. Bye.